Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead.
Man, you score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Andy. Today it's Ewan and Angus who join me to discuss another busy week following the football club. Coming up, we look back at Wednesday night's game with Kilmarnock. We made it 12 undefeated with victory against the Ayrshire men. We then go on to look at Saturday's game with Aberdeen. It was third time lucky for this tie, but it's not one that will live long in the memory. All we seem to do is talk about Aberdeen as we again face them on Tuesday night. We look ahead to that. And finally, we'll preview next weekend's game at home to St Johnstone and a warm-up for the Betfred Cup final.
On Wednesday night, Livy faced a Kilmarnock team in West Lothian who were in dire need of a result. Livy, on the other hand, were looking to extend their unbeaten run to 12. It was the late show by the Lions, but 2 goals in the final couple of minutes secured yet another 3 points as this unbelievable run showed no sign of slowing down. Wasn't our best performance in this run, but it's 3 points at the end of the day. That's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I tweeted after the game. I said it's a good sign of a decent team where you can pick up points comfortably without playing well. The first half, we kind of dominated. We had a good couple of chances. Guthrie hit the bar. But yeah, in the second half, it just kind of seemed as if it wasn't going to come. We kept on having waves and waves of pressure, but it just didn't seem to have that kind of final ball. Kilmarnock were resilient. They defended well for the most part, but then it got to that 88th minute and they collapsed, thankfully to our benefit. Good work by Devlin to kind of keep the ball in that kind of zone. We end up working to get a throw in, and Craig Sibbald makes a good opening, cuts the ball back, and then Jace Kabaya gets his first goal for the club, which is absolutely tremendous. Then almost instantaneously, so quick that even our stadium announcer was still trying to call the first goal, Scott Pittman wins a loose ball in the box after some calamitous defending from Kelly, and it's 2-0, and it looks like an absolutely amazing result. So yeah, can't ask for much more. As you said, it wasn't too pretty, but 3 points, 12 games unbeaten, can't ask for much more, can we?
It's another one of these games. We obviously mentioned the Aberdeen game that won't live long in the memory. I don't think the Kilmarnock game will live long in the memory, but the result's the main thing. I don't think we were particularly bad. I thought we controlled, for the most part, the game, barring maybe 15, 20 minutes in the second half when Kilmarnock came out and hit us on the break 2 or 3 times and had a couple of chances, but I don't really recall Stryjek making any sort of saving note. I think if anybody deserved to win the game, it was certainly us. And again, I think it shows the benefit of having such a strong squad. You know, we made changes. David Martindale made changes, and once again they've paid dividends. Sibbald's came on and really made a difference. You obviously mentioned Cabia, who's came on and scored his first goal, a really good strike in it. And you know, having spoken to the guy from Shelburne, he did mention that he's a very natural goal scorer in front of goal, and I think it showed with his first touch. He was eager to get that shot away early when it paid off, and as you say, I the stadium announcer wasn't the only one caught out. I was still in the middle of tweeting the first goal as well when the second one went in, so I actually missed Pittman's score and I had to watch the rerun of it. So yeah, it was a great result. Another 3 points, and it just we mentioned on last week's episode how it was important to pick up that game, almost securing a top 6 spot with a win against Kilmarnock. So it was an excellent result, and it really pushed us on in the league and gives us a really good gap now to close out this top 6.
Andy, what you said about missing Pittman's goal is precisely the reason I put my phone away watching the football now. Because you lot didn't shut up, some of you in the group chat. But anyway, I think first half we controlled it without, creating an awful lot of chances. Forrest had one early on, forced a good save from Danny Rogers, and Guthrie hit the bar as well. So to be fair, I think we probably should have gone in at half time, at least a goal up. Second half, as you said, Andy, I think Kelly hit us on the break 2 or 3 times. They were getting in behind us quite easily. But the only real chance of note that they had was Oakley. When Oakley got in behind, Devlin's tried to clear it and it's hit off Oakley and gone wide. It wasn't even as if they created the opportunity. It would have been a pretty lucky goal. But I think, once again, Davies' tactical masterstroke came into play. I think changing Sibbald with Bartley, putting Sibbald on for Bartley, made a massive difference. I think you could see the way the game was going. I think Kilmarnock were quite content with a point and weren't really going to offer that big a threat. We didn't really need Bartley kind of roaming to try and break up attacks. And I think getting Sibbald on to start recycling the ball a little bit more and almost shift Kilmarnock about the pitch a little bit more, because they were sitting in that little bit deeper. And for the first goal, I think what Sibbald does brilliantly is Mackenzie had just got booked earlier on for stopping a quick throw-in, and he's committed Mackenzie for the challenge. Mackenzie has the option of either taking him down, getting a second booking, or letting him go past him, which he's obviously allowed him to do. And the ball falls to Cabby at the back post, and it's a great finish, puts us 1 up. And the second goal, it's, as you said, Angus, it's calamitous defending from Kilmarnock, but fair play to Pitts in typical Scott Pittman fashion. 250th appearance for the club, and he goes and grabs that goal. Good wee finish, knocking it through Rogers' legs. And I think we thoroughly, without playing brilliant, I think we thoroughly deserved the 3 points. I think we were the only team that really looked like trying to win the game. But once again, it's a tactical masterstroke from Davy and Foxy on the bench to help us get over the line and get the 3 points. And as you say, I think we can now start looking at, I think most seasons 40 points tends to get you in the top 6 on average, and I think we're getting pretty close to that now. So I think we can maybe start looking ahead rather than over the shoulders. I know I tend to be pretty cautious, saying we'll happily settle for 10th, but I think we can now start trying to look at trying to target the teams above us as well. But yeah, I think we've done enough to probably get top 6 this season now off the back of that Kilmarnock result.
So yesterday's result, obviously, with Kilmarnock against St Johnstone, saw Alex Dyer end up being released, resigning from his job as manager. Based on the game against us and that result yesterday, are you too surprised that he's ended up leaving Kilmarnock?
Not really, to be honest. I think that the writing was on the wall for Alex Dyer for a wee while now. The Kilmarnock fans seem to have lost faith in him. There was a saying going around the Kilmarnock fans that he's probably too nice to be a manager, and you get that impression. And he's sort of post-match sort of interviews and things that he just comes across like a nice guy. And sometimes you just can't be a nice guy in football management. You've got to have that sort of ruthless side. The results, I mean, if you were a Kilmarnock fan, the results haven't been good enough, let's be honest. But there's a part of me that thinks they're still living in the Steve Clarke era a little bit. They had such an unbelievable run under Steve Clarke. Prior to that, they were always struggling as well. So where do Kilmarnock really expect to be in the league? Probably bottom half. Staying up comfortably every year, albeit they're in a bit of a dogfight just now. But what's to say that they weren't going to pick up a couple of good results? But as you say, I think they've been really lacking in a goal threat. Defensively, they've been poor. So I think the writing was on the wall for Dyer, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think the thing with Alex Dyer, I saw a stat yesterday that he has the worst points per game average of any Kilmarnock manager since he came back into the top flight, which I think kind of says everything. As you said, Andy, he comes across as probably one of the nicest guys in football, Alex Dyer, and by all accounts, I think the players really liked him. I watched Sports Scene yesterday, and Stephen O'Donnell said he's just an incredibly nice man. But sometimes where your management duo, you have the good cop, bad cop style thing, and I think Alex Dyer was probably the good cop in that partnership with Steve Clark, and maybe just almost too comfortable with the players and too pally with the players, and it's maybe not quite worked out for him. Who knows? But I'm sure he'll be back in football in some capacity. Steve Clark might look to bring him back into the Scotland fold, which he was involved with before he got the Kilmarnock job full time. So you never know. But have to say, our ex-manager Gary Holt might be raging that he's just taken that job at Falkirk because his dream jobs just came up.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Kilmarnock. It seems quite odd for them to have stuck by Dyer for so long, and obviously they've let Brophy go, considering he had kind of fallen out of favour under Dyer. Perhaps they might be regretting not pulling the trigger a wee bit earlier, since results haven't really been great and they have lost what they would, well, I don't know if they would possibly deem him this season as one of their key players, but quite a prospect. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they bring in, because I do think they have a decent squad. You could likes of Burke, you could likes of Kabamba, Power, Dicker. They do have some solid players, but yeah, we'll just have to see how they bounce back from it. But going back to our kind of side of things, who were the kind of standout players for Livingston against Kilmarnock?
Yeah, I thought Pittman again ran the show. Devlin got up and down the sides really well. Defensively, we were solid again. Guthrie, how good has he been? I think there was a question posed on Twitter by Callum Carson. Is he the best central defender out with maybe Rangers and Celtic? Certainly Celtic. And it's hard to think of anybody that at the moment is better than Guthrie. We don't want to be shouting it for the rooftops because we don't want anybody coming in and stealing our best players again. But I think he's been incredible. Pittman, as you say, on his 250th appearance, I think there was a bit of controversy. Was it a red card? Wasn't a red card? I'm sure we'll come on to that. We unfortunately had the Kilmarnock commentary on LFC Live for this game, and it wasn't great. Very biased. They seem to have an agenda against referees from the start to finish, and Pittman was described as a horrific tackle about 18 million times during the commentary. I'm not quite seeing it myself. I think it was probably a late tackle, but nothing more than that. A yellow card, I think, probably, if anything. Certainly not horrific like they were describing. But yeah, on obviously your question, I think Pittman and Guthrie for me were the standouts, and Devlin just behind them for his work rate up and down the sides.
I thought Jason Holt personally was my man of the match. I think he was just doing what he does almost every game, which is recycling the ball. I'd love to see his pass completion stats, because you rarely see him give the ball away, and he just keeps the game ticking over all the time. And I think in games like Wednesday, when we have a lot of possession of the ball, I think Holt's quite key to just keeping the game ticking over all the time like he does. I've been really impressed with him since he's came back into the side since the Hamilton game just before Christmas, which you touched on, Angus. He's came in and he's shown his worth to the team. Pittman just being Pitts, talking of that challenge, I think there was one second half almost identical with Kilmarnock where the boy got booked. At most, it's a yellow card. I couldn't help but laugh near the end when Nicky Devlin got booked for a challenge, and you'd think he'd just went and shot one of the commentators' dogs or something like that, the way they reacted to the challenge. And I never thought I'd say that I missed the Reverend I Am Jolly, which is Callum Brown, on the comms. But it just shows you, I think, at the end of the day, fan TV is fan TV. You expect it to be a little bit biased at the end of the day, but I think Kilmarnock must have had a torrid time with referees because the poor referee was getting absolutely slaughtered. But I think going back onto the kind of man of the match aspect, it certainly wasn't. Well, I think Pitts did get Kilmarnock's man of the match because Livi fans invaded the Kilmarnock TV Twitter. So Pitts did get a man of the match award. But for me, Holt was the pick of the bunch for me.
Just to kind of touch on the commentary, although Dave and Callum weren't able to give us their kind of view of things, they've probably never received as much praise in their lives for their commentary skills, which is quite funny to see. But I think he's kind of spot on with the kind of players. I'm absolutely loving this form that Guthrie's on. Just the way that he kind of steps up and wins it, like intercepts like simple passes and that, keeps the pressure on in their halves. And as you say, Jason Holt, he's happy to take the ball straight off him and just keep on pinging it back in. And that's basically what the story of the second half was. Kilmarnock tried to break. Guthrie or Fitzwater or Brown or Devlin was kind of stopping it. We were giving it to the midfield and we were recycling it again. And yeah, it was in terms of like on the ball, it probably was like a kind of decent performance, maybe a wee bit sloppy at times that kind of like lacked the kind of quality. But yeah, I'm more than happy with how the game panned out and the result as well.
Just a quick couple of things. Obviously, Gavin Riley made his starting debut for the club. How did you think that went? And also, another one that kind of sprung to mind was, I personally was streaming out for Mullen and Forest to start for a lot of games, and they've started again in this one. Didn't think it quite worked personally. I thought we were probably poorer without Sibbald in the team. So where do we go for there? Do Mullen and Forest not quite fit in together, or is it the fact that Sibbald's just the sort of glue that keeps everything going together? And obviously, Riley, what do you think of his sort of starting debut as well?
I think Riley there was a good little bit of hold-up play before the incredibly controversial Pittman challenge. The Kilmarnock TV guys spoke about, very little they touched on it, but there was a good bit of hold-up play from Riley. I think there was a corner where I think if he gets in the first half, if he gets a nick on it, he's probably scored. The way the ball's kind of flashed across goal. He's busy. I think he's quite similar to Robbo in a lot of ways when he plays up there. Quite cute, wins throw-ins, buys free kicks here and there, and holds the ball up relatively well as well. I was quite impressed with him. I think, don't know how much games he's played down south. I think a lot of it was kind of coming off the bench, so probably good 60-70 minutes would have done him really good. In terms of Mullen and Forest, that depends on the system. When you're playing like we did the other night, 4-2-3-1, you kind of two natural wide players in Mullen and Forest, but it didn't quite click. But I wouldn't read too much into it. I think sometimes players can have a wee bit of an off night. I don't think Josh had his best game on Wednesday, so players can, and I think wide players in particular kind of go in and out of form quite a lot. A lot of it can depend on how much they see the ball, for example. So I wouldn't read too much into that personally. Yeah,
I think with Riley, he had like a fine game, and he'll only get better the more he plays with this team and gets used to the kind of tempo and speed of like the top flight in Scotland, because he hasn't really played that much in the Scottish Premiership. So hopefully more games under his belt, more training sessions, he'll become closer with the lads and we'll see the best of him. With Mullen and Forest, I don't think Mullen had his best game at all. Forest went close on a couple of occasions. Maybe if one of them goes in, we're kind of talking differently. We're saying as Forest kind of forcing his way into the team now. Perhaps just like an off night for both of them, because especially the second chance that Forest had, the one in the second half where he cuts in on his right foot, we've seen him do it against like Stenhouse Muir. I think he did it again in the Betfred Cup against somebody else as well. He has that quality, so maybe it was just that kind of off night. I don't think we were particularly great as a team in that kind of quality in the final third, but yeah, it's an interesting proposition because, as you said, Sibbald came on, changed the game, the way that he was kind of moving the ball about. I don't know if it's maybe because when Sibbald is playing instead of like Alan Forrest, he kind of has like a kind of free roam kind of role, and it's like between him and Pittman or Holt, whoever finds himself on the left wing presses out, as opposed to Forrest would probably stick out there for the most part. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and again, it's just good to see that we have plenty of options who can bring similar levels of quality, but maybe offer just something that is slightly different to help change our fortunes.
And one final word, mentioned Cabia a bit earlier on. He came on and scored. He's made an impact. It seems like he's made enough of an impact to now hang around the squad. It was made clear that it was Davy Martindale and the club were looking to loan him out. He's came in and made an impact in the 2 games that he's played. Now looks like he's going to be in and around the squad. Do you think he'll make an impact going forward in the team?
I think he's still one massively for the future. And I think it will be kind of bits and pieces off the bench, and maybe as we get to the tail end of the season where we kind of know where we're at for the remainder of the season, you could see him coming in and starting a few games. I still think he is one for the future, but as Davey touched on, he comes across very infectious when he comes on. I think just before his goal, he showed a brilliant little bit of footwork on the right-hand side, just on the edge of the box. And the boy clearly has ability, and it's almost that kind of, he doesn't have that fear factor that sometimes you can get with young players when they come in. They don't want to do anything wrong. I think he has that little bit of spark about him with something special that can change games a little bit. And I think the very little we've seen of him so far, I think he's certainly done his chances no harm of hanging about and hopefully getting a few more appearances as we come towards the end of the season.
Yeah, 2 appearances. He's got Scott Brown sent off and he scored a goal. He's basically a cult hero already. But yeah, there's no reason why, if he keeps on impressing in training like he seems to be doing, that he can get more appearances. And then, as you say, if we become kind of more comfortable in the top 6, those kind of later games, that if we've got any remaining matches against like Hamilton, against Ross County, you might see us play him from the start just to kind of give him like more experience at this level. But yeah, absolutely buzzing for Jays. Sometimes it can take a while to get properly used to kind of your surroundings, but he seems to be taken to the club very, very well, and he seems hardworking and very likeable. See this post-match interview. Yeah, he seems absolutely delighted. So brilliant for him to get his first goal, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah, so that was the Kilmarnock game. A fantastic 2-0 win. The Livingston European train keeps on steaming through, and top 6, 12 games unbeaten. Can we make it 13 games unbeaten against Aberdeen?
We are still waiting for our first win over Aberdeen since 2004, but our unbeaten run extended to 13 games following a stalemate with Aberdeen on Saturday. It was a game with plenty of chances, but both teams will be reeling at their missed chances. A 0-0 draw, it's another point, but the game won't go down in the history books, will it?
I think it was quite a classic Livi Aberdeen game. It was very tight. Both teams kind of almost borderline just cancelling each other out. I think Aberdeen had a couple of very good chances, and McLennan hitting the bar. Hayes had a good chance kind of just inside the box, and then we had obviously Pittman's chance first half, which, I think Pittman, if you watch the replays, he's almost expecting Robinson to get a touch, and he kind of staggers his run a little bit, whilst if he just gambles on no one touching that ball, I think he taps it in with no issue, whilst because he's kind of hung back a little bit, he's almost needing to try and hook it back towards goal. And to be fair to Joe Lewis, I think it's a good save. Don't think it was over the line. Don't think the full ball was over. But second half, I think, again, it was very even. I think Robbo had a really good chance where Effie's knocked it back across, header that he had. Devlin got in behind, fizzed across a ball across the face of goal. I think if Pittman was to just chuck himself at it and just get something on it, a bit like his goal up at Perthshire earlier in the season, just get something on it, I think he could put it goal bound. But again, Aberdeen had opportunities as well. I think Max has pulled off a great save from McCrory when he's got in behind. And then Anderson's header late on, I think he's really got to hit the target. But I think a draw was a fair result, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see what happens during the week, because I did a podcast, Red Tinted Glasses podcast after the game, and they're certainly not in the best of spirits, Aberdeen supporters, just now, and to say the least. I think the message I got from my dad is they're never happier than when they're miserable. But I think it'll be interesting to see what Aberdeen do in the transfer market, because McInnes is bemoaning that he's lacking his number 9. But I think he's been lacking his number 9 all season. I don't think Cosgrove's really been at it this season. Previous kind of 18 months have been excellent for them. And then Curtis Main, I think he's just a kind of journeyman forward. I don't think he's ever going to score you the goals that'll carry you to kind of 4th, 3rd spot in the league. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. Been like with Fraser Hornby, Callum Hendry are the couple of names that are getting bandied about. So that could make a difference for them kind of in the final third, that little bit of cutting edge. But certainly it's a good point in my opinion, because our record against Aberdeen's not been great, but another clean sheet and 13 unbeaten, you can't really complain too much.
I kind of thought we paid Aberdeen a little bit too much respect in this game, to be honest. I thought they were there for the taking. I thought we set up quite defensively. With 3 at the back. I know we kind of put the graphic out as a 3-4-2-1. That's what we were told. But parts of the game it was Devlin and Serrano sitting back playing a 5. And I just felt Aberdeen, they didn't have a recognised number 9. They had a few players missing for the game. Wright didn't play, or it certainly came on for the last 25 minutes. But I just felt if we'd taken the game to them like we have been doing, we could have picked them off. And I just felt we thought about them too much rather than ourselves. Not to say that it wasn't a good point. I still think it was a good point considering our record against Aberdeen. I just feel like if we'd taken the game to them, we could have created chances and won the game. But I agree, Ewan. I think probably over the piece that a draw was fair. I think if anybody edged the game, I think it was probably Aberdeen just on chances. I know obviously Pittman, I agree. I don't think it was quite over the line with obviously not seeing any definite images back. But to me, it probably just wasn't over. But obviously Aberdeen have hit the bar. They've had a couple of chances. I think Hayes has had one in the first half after they've hit the bar. They've had the chance near the end with Bruce Anderson as well, and McCrory, like you mentioned, all having really good chances where I can only really think of Pitts and Robinson had a header, but that was probably the only 2 that off the top of my head that I can think of that were clear cut. We changed the style, as I mentioned. We went with sort of Devlin and Serrano almost playing further forward. Do you think this was a game, I spoke about feeling a bit too defensive. Do you think this was a game that we're crying out for a Millen or a Forrest to play in there to run at them and get behind them and put crosses in the box for Robinson, who's been thriving off of these crosses recently?
I think it's a difficult one, especially in the kind of formation. I'm not sure if we just kind of matched them up like for like, just to kind of nullify their kind of threats, like kind of out wide or whatnot, and just to kind of go man to man with them. A point against them at home is a good result. I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps you are right about how we have shown them too much respect, but I don't necessarily believe that I would have went any different, in all honesty. Obviously, Aberdeen are quite a decent team, but would we have had the complete capabilities to go and take it to them? That kind of solid back 5 that we haven't really kind of faced, who is basically very, very good. Would the likes of Mullen and that made a difference? Mullen obviously would have added a bit more in terms of set piece quality and stuff like that as well, but I'm not too sure it would have made too much of a difference. I feel like the game, especially the second half, it just kind of fell into a trap of both teams were just kind of cancelling each other out. Every time the ball kind of went long, the centre halves were kind of easily winning it. So I'm not entirely sure if possibly Mullen being introduced would have been much of a difference, because looking at the team, whose place would he take in that starting 11? Perhaps maybe a different option up front may have helped or that. I don't know. Maybe if you had somebody who was a bit more going to hold the ball up. I know Robinson didn't necessarily have the best of luck yesterday Whenever we tried to like put the ball, we never really got behind Aberdeen defence either. But every time the ball went up to Robinson, Hoban or Taylor, that was like so close to him that he couldn't really feed it to Pittman or that. So yeah, I do see the point in maybe being a wee bit more forward thinking, but at the same time, I'm not sure it probably was the best kind of way to approach that game.
I think we did lack Josh's quality maybe at dead balls a little bit yesterday. That delivery that he gives you. I think one of the changes that made a massive difference yesterday, and this will absolutely kill Andy to hear this, but I think Jet made a massive difference when he came on. I think as much as we love Robbo and how good his hold-up play can be, it's very difficult when you're the size of Robbo to hold the ball up against Considine, Hoban and Taylor, three absolute monsters. It's going to be a tough shift, and I think when Jet came on, I think you could see the quality that Jet has when you feed the ball into his feet and kind of into his chest. He can hold the ball in and roll it off onto someone else and get the team up the park. And I think that made a massive difference kind of in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game when Jet did come on. I think he certainly contributed in that sense.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked to hear this because I've obviously been one of Jet's biggest critics on the podcast and, wherever else. But I agree. I think he did come on and caused a lot of problems for the Aberdeen defence. He was clever with the ball at his feet. He took his man on, won numerous free kicks. And yet he did make a difference. I still just feel like, with 5-10 minutes to go, instead of going for the game, taking the game to them, because to me, Aberdeen were the ones that were trying to win the game. They brought on attacking players. We brought on, Longridge, to replace Serrano. Just a defensive change for me when, with 5-10 minutes to go, I wouldn't have seen a problem with bringing on, Alan Forrest or Josh Millen to try and take the game to them, especially where Jet was playing, because he was winning free kicks in the opposition area, and if you get someone on with a dead ball specialist that could maybe make a difference and plant the ball onto someone's head, it could have made a massive difference in the game. Don't get me wrong, don't take this the wrong way. I'm really happy with a point. It continues our unbeaten run. I just feel like the game was there for the taking, which slightly frustrates me, but the gaffer's not done much wrong. Who am I to criticise? He's 13 unbeaten. And maybe he's got a plan in his head for Tuesday night's game. Who knows?
I do think there may be a game plan for midweek, and that's probably why a couple of players didn't feature at all. Because, as you said, their last 10 minutes, you want those kind of players who could maybe make a difference. But perhaps there is the intent is to go to Pittodrie and try and do that. But one last final touch on the kind of game. Obviously, we found out the news after the Kilmarnock game that Kieran Brown would be returning to Cardiff City. So that was his last game there, a 0-0 game against Aberdeen. Kieran it's quite gutting because Kieran's been absolutely tremendous in recent weeks. He's been a great part of this run of form. We're going to miss him in defence and obviously that long throw as well. But obviously, it goes with our best wishes, and hopefully we can maybe get him back for a fourth loan or even a permanent deal because he has been absolutely tremendous this season for the club.
I hope that Kieran can go back to Cardiff and feature. Obviously, Mick McCarthy's just came in there, so he'll be wanting to have a look at what players he's got available. And I think, if I'm right in saying, I think Kieran's contract's up at the end of the season with Cardiff, so it'll be a good chance for him to maybe go and earn a new deal there and feature. But in his three spells, I remember saying last season when we brought Kieran Brown back in that we were maybe needing a kind of left-sided defender, left-back sort of area. And I suggested bringing Kieran Brown back after his initial loan spell, and I got scoffed at by Mr. Semple on the podcast for suggesting it. And I think Kieran's been excellent across these kind of three spells. This spell, I think he struggled early doors, mostly kind of down to niggling injuries, and the team wasn't playing at its best either. But he's played in a back, a centre half pairing. He's played back three. He's played left back. He's played left wing back. Number of positions he's covered for us, and always kind of is a solid kind of that 7 out of 10 type of player. really kind of puts their foot wrong. So I wish them the best of luck going back down to Cardiff.
Yeah, I think what we can take for this is I know absolutely nothing about football. Jet, Hoppy a few years ago, and now Kieran Brown. I'll absolutely hold my hands up again. Kieran Brown, to me, was a bit of a bomb scare to begin with, but he's really stepped up to the mark. I think he's been really solid, especially this season. I didn't think it in him to play left back, I must admit, but he's probably been one of our best players. I think his outball, for example, the amount of crossfield balls we play that Brown wins in the air, starts attacks. The last few weeks he's been part of a defence that's kept numerous clean sheets. I mean, I can't take anything away from him. I agree with you guys. I think I hope he goes down to Cardiff and plays games and impresses Mick McCarthy and does a job down there, because I think he's got all the makings of being a really, really good player. But if he doesn't make it there, I wouldn't be against bringing him back again for a fourth time. Like you said, Ewan, he's out of contract in the summer if he doesn't quite make it. Whether we can do a deal with him, who knows? He'll be on quite a substantial pay packet, I'm sure, down at Cardiff City. But maybe we'd be front runners given his experience up here. But having listened to his interview after the game, he seems quite keen to make that step up. And I wish nothing but the best for him, and he's been great for us. So we wish him absolutely the best and good luck to him at Cardiff for sure.
Again, it's that kind of age-old thing that happens as well, where if Kieran Brown does go into their team and impresses, perhaps it gives Cardiff the impression that Livingston's a good place for their players to develop, and in the future there may be future youth prospects who they send up here because they know the kind of environment that we have that will let these kind of players thrive. So yeah, as we say, all the best to Kieran. Hopefully he gets played, because I'm sure he would be gutted to go back to Cardiff, not play, and obviously miss out on the likes of the cup final or that. But yeah, hopefully he does well and smashes it and continues to make strides at club and international level.
As if we've not spoken enough about Aberdeen recently, here we are again with yet another game against them. This time it's a trip up north to Pittodrie for the second time this season. Boys, we've spoken about Aberdeen to death recently. We all know it's going to be a tight game. How do we get the better of them? Because it's been a long time since we've done that.
Yeah, I think what Angus kind of said, Davey may be having a game plan for the game up at Pittodrie. Guys like Josh Mullen, I think, will come in. I think, again, I touched on it doing the podcast with the Aberdeen guys. I think it'll be a different game with Aberdeen being the home side. I think the onus is going to be on them to try and come out and put in a good performance and maybe try and take a little bit of pressure off Derek McInnes from some sections of the Aberdeen support, because it would be a big result for them to kind of open up that gap between ourselves kind of chasing them as well. So I think we've got a good chance up at Pittodrie. I think this will be one of our best opportunities to go up there and try and get 3 points, because I think what we've shown recently, the likes of the Hibs game, we were able to exploit kind of space in behind them quite a lot at Easter Road. Again, because Hibs is a home team, the onus is on them to come and try and take the game to us rather than the other way about. And I think we've managed to pick teams off away from home recently with that kind of style. So I think there is a big opportunity going up to Pittodrie, but I just can't see anything else than a really tight game. And I think it'll be a matter of a couple of moments of quality that will be the difference over the course of the game, because I think Livi and Aberdeen are so similar. Difficult to break down, don't give up an awful lot of chances at either end. And I think we do just kind of cancel each other out a little bit. So it's going to take a moment of quality to turn this one in any team's favour, in my opinion.
I think Ewan's right in the kind of way that we've kind of got to... Aberdeen will be kind of on the front foot for the most part, and with that we've got to kind of look to do like what we did against Hibs. The game that sticks out most familiarly on how Aberdeen can be pinned back and the space can be exploited was the game against Ross County, You can see in that game there was a couple of occasions where the two wing backs were caught so far up. I think even in the first minute, I think it was, Ross County got their first goal, and you see Johnny Hayes, who's playing right wing back. He's in no man's land for absolutely no reason. So perhaps if we can do that, obviously if we play Forrest and Mullen on either side of the likes of Riley or Robinson, that space could be exploited and we could get in behind them and catch them on the break a couple of times. That may be the way they go for it. I wouldn't be too surprised to see us go man for man again. But also with Kieran Brown leaving, we might not have the capabilities to go to that kind of back five so comfortably. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 kind of thing might be the kind of right way to go. Try and catch them on the counter and make them kind of keep forcing them to kind of come into our half, play a high line, and just keep on exploiting them, hitting the ball over the top and getting chances on goal. But we'll need to be clinical. Joe Lewis is a fantastic keeper. We'll need to be very on point in front of goal. But the way that we've been playing away from home, there's absolutely no reason that we can't go and take something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think looking at our recent away record, for even going way back to probably the first Celtic game, you know, when we lost 3-2 at Parkhead, I felt like we really took the game to Celtic. And I think certainly recently on the road, we've been taking the game to teams. You know, I mentioned in the last little bit that I felt like we were too defensive. It wouldn't surprise me if we line up that way again, but I'll reiterate, I think that Aberdeen are there for the taking. If we play our game and get in their faces and take our chances when they come along, there is absolutely no reason why we can't go to Pittodrie and end this hoodoo. You mentioned about number 9's Ewan coming into Aberdeen. I think it's been reported today during the podcast that Fraser Hornby is going to be in Aberdeen on loan for the rest of the season. Whether he plays in this game, I don't know the rules, but behind COVID, whether he has to come over and isolate because he's coming from a different country, whether he has to isolate for a period of time before he can get going or not. But if he doesn't, he'll be a major influence on Aberdeen. You know, they've been really lacking in a number 9. You said that, Ewan, and I think Hornby knows a few of the Aberdeen boys already, you know, through the under-21 set up with Scotland. So I think he'll fit in there really well. He's got a lot of potential and one to look out for the national team going forward. So getting him is a bit of a coup for Aberdeen, I would say. One to look out for. But on us, I think we've got all the ability in the world. We've got players there that can cause Aberdeen no end of problems, and we should be going up there to try and win the game.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I think it's going to be a very difficult one. And, you know, if Hornby's able to feature, that might give Aberdeen that little bit of a lift going into the game as well. Kind of getting, as you say, a really high-profile signing. He's very highly thought of and a lot of expectation on him kind of going on to big things. So, as we said, we've talked about Aberdeen to death. So what we'll do is we'll go on to predictions. Angus, we'll start off with you since you're miles behind. Absolutely shockingly miles behind everyone in the league. So what are you thinking for this one?
Miles behind at the moment, but I think if we went points per game, I think I'd be quite comfortable, to be honest. But yeah.
I guess no, we're not going down the points per game route. Just get on with it.
That's fine. If you want to have an asterisk next to your name, obviously we've seen what happened the next season at the last team that happened to. So yeah, I'm more than happy for that to happen again. But yeah, I went for a draw the last game. I'm going to go for a draw again this time, and I'm going to get in first with 1-1.
Andy, what are you thinking then?
It's such a bastard game to predict, isn't it? After recent games, such a difficult one. Wait, I'm doing really appallingly in the prediction league, I must admit. But I've been killed by a few last minute goals this season, it has to be said.
Andy, see if you listen really closely, you can hear the world's smallest violin playing for you.
I'm just, yeah, okay. I'm going to say we're going to lose our unbeaten run here. I think the Hornby signing will lift Aberdeen. We've got a notoriously poor record against them, especially at Pittodrie. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 defeat.
I'm going to be positive. I'm going to go for us to nick it 1-0 up at Pittodrie.
Well, there you go. So we've got a win, a draw, and a defeat. One of us is surely going to get it right. Big game again. Hopefully, I'm wrong. You guys are right, and we continue this remarkable run of form and make it 14 without defeat in this game.
Finally, this week, we're going to look ahead to this weekend's game with St Johnstone. It's a meeting between the Betfred Cup finalists. We are facing an informed St Johnstone side who are now unbeaten in 7. Two informed teams face off. Can we get our third victory over St Johnstone this season?
Yeah, I don't see why we can't. Obviously, they're in a good run of form, but then again, so are we. Obviously, they had an amazing comeback just there against Kilmarnock, coming back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. The guy, what's his name? Was it Guy El Hamed up front? Seems to have made quite a wee bit of a difference to them. He got, was it 1 goal and 2 assists yesterday? St Johnstone's main issue has been scoring goals, but we've seen it in recent weeks now. 3 goals at the weekend just there, 3 goals against Hibs in the semi-final. So maybe that's something that they're turning round. But again, the way that we are playing, and especially at home, I don't think they have enough quality that will properly punish us if we defend the way that we know we can. It'll be interesting to see, obviously, because it is basically a dress rehearsal for February's game in the Betfred Cup. But yeah, I don't think we should particularly be too worrisome of St Johnstone. Like, they haven't been tremendous this entire season. Yeah, they've had like a decent run of form here, but again, so have we. But we've got to have confidence in our own lads that we'll go into this game with the full intent of taking 3 points, and it's one that I do believe that we will do based on the 2 previous outings. I do believe we have that extra bit of quality compared to them, and a different number of options as well.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it with the boy Melamed that's came in. I think recent weeks he's seems to have struck up a decent partnership with Kane up top. And it seems to be benefiting them. They've obviously looked a bit more threatening going forward, which would have been my biggest criticism of St Johnstone. Is I think they play a lot of decent football without any real cutting edge so far this season. Obviously, they've got 3 in the semi-final against Hibs, 3 against Kilmarnock. Really impressive comeback as well. So I think it should be quite an entertaining game. I think the game earlier in the season, I think we showed our clinical side in that one, and I think kind of the same again in the reverse fixture. So it'll be an interesting one. I don't know how the managers will treat it, if they're going to be a bit cagey, obviously, with the cup final at the end of the month, whether they don't want to give too much away, but I can't really see that, to be honest. You play each other that many times in a season, I think you kind of know each other in and out, inside out by the end of it. But yeah, I think it should be quite a decent game of football. Obviously 2 informed teams, but I do think the first goal is going to be the pivotal one in the game. I think both teams are quite stuffy once they get in front. We've talked about how well we've played defensively in recent weeks on this run, and I think St Johnstone kind of have a bit of that about them as well. That they are quite stuffy and don't concede an awful lot, whilst not scoring an awful lot at the other end.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think obviously as well, it might not make any difference. Maybe I'm clutching at straws a little bit, but our midweek games on Tuesday, they're at Ibrox on Wednesday, so they've got a really tough fixture 24 hours after us. We've got a little bit more prep time for this game. And I agree with what you guys say. St Johnstone have really came on form a little bit, but are they really that great? We've beat them twice already this season. The form we're in, albeit I've predicted us to lose on Tuesday night, hopefully not. But we'll go into this with a great lot of confidence, and we're going into it, I think, second best form team in the league just now, just behind Rangers, and that's with 3 draws in that run, with Celtic and Aberdeen. So I really don't see why we can't go into it with confidence. I think St Johnstone can be got at. yeah, they've got more threats on the park now since their sort of January signings have come in. You know, they look more likely to score goals. That they've proven that, like you mentioned, Angus. But defensively, we've been really, really good. Obviously, we're missing Kieran Brown for it, so that'll be a loss. But we've got plenty to cover. You know, I mean, if we're going with 4 at the back, who do you think comes in to replace them? We probably should have asked that for the Aberdeen game, but we'll ask it here. You know, we've got plenty of options. We've got Jack McMillan who can play there, but we've also got Jackson Longridge who's come in, and Julian Serrano who's been the go-to this season for that position when Kieran Brown's been out. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Serrano's the fit option. I would like to see more of Jack McMillan, to be honest. I thought he was absolutely tremendous last season. He's not really had a great run of a great run in the first team. But yeah, Serrano I think will be the player who comes in and probably will for the rest of the season. Obviously, I would like to see McMillan, but Longridge seems to have has kind of jumped him in the queue as well. The last couple of games we've seen him come on and do a job at left back for the last kind of like 10-15 minutes or so. Not entirely sure if he's like completely caught up to the speed of the game and is like match fit just yet to like properly start. But Serrano for me would definitely be the option because he adds in that kind of pace and that kind of intensity to go forward as well.
I think with Jacko, I heard a comment from Davey saying that he's probably made that signing with Jacko a little bit earlier than he intended. I think he was more looking at that one towards the summer next season, obviously with Brown and Serrano being on loan. So I think Jacko's more the long-term option at left back, obviously signed for 2.5 years. So the other thing I was going to say with the St Johnstone game is if you look across the 2 games so far this season, we set up with like 4-2-3-1. Then during the game went to 3-5-2 in the home game. Then the away game again we were 4-2-3-1, kind of switched into a 3-4-2-1 and matched them up. Do you think Davy Martindale is going to pull off another tactical masterstroke for this one?
Well, he seems very tactically aware. I think we've spoke about it at length since he got the job. That you know he likes to tinker, he likes to look at each team on their own, and make changes to our team to accommodate that. It wouldn't surprise me if we do exactly the same again. He's proven that he's a bit of a master tactician when it comes to games, and wouldn't surprise me if we go to a 3 or we played that way against Aberdeen with a sort of 3-4-2-1. Didn't quite click, but maybe that was all to do with the personnel. But you know, we were playing a good side in Aberdeen and St Johnstone, yeah, albeit they're a decent side, but are they off that same ability as Aberdeen? Don't think so. You know, we should be going into this with a lot of confidence. We've got the personnel that can open St Johnstone up, and you know, I'm really going into this one with confidence, especially at home. You know, a recent record. You know, we're talking up St Johnstone's form, but over the last 10 games, we're only actually 4 points worse off than Rangers over 10 games. 7 wins, 3 draws, only 5 conceded. St Johnstone in that same time have only won 2 games. You know, so albeit, you know, they're on a decent run of form, but they're there for the taking.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll go on to predictions once again for this one. So Angus, again, because you're rock bottom of the league, we'll start with you.
Enjoy it whilst it lasts. But I think quite confident going at this one. Maybe the result midweek could make this look quite silly, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Livingston.
And Andy, what are we looking at for this one?
Yeah, I think there'll be goals in this one. I think both teams have showed they're capable of scoring goals. Can we keep a clean sheet? I don't know. I think St Johnstone have looked pretty good going forward, pretty handy, but I think we'll score goals. So I'm going to go 3-1 Livingston.
I'm going to go for 2-1 Livy. I'm the same as you, Andy. I think they're offering a bit more of a threat going forward. I fancy St Johnstone to get a goal, but I think we'll be able to open them up. Just on a wee side note, we've teamed up with McBookie for Bet Builder, and any money that we make off any sort of bets, it'll be going towards Kick Mental Health. So yeah, get in on that. If you fancy it, it'll help go towards a really good cause from our side of things, and but always gamble responsibly, guys.
That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in week in and out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Angus said, we are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
A love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ambervale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ambervale Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier Division.